Chair Fagan, members of the committee, my name is Dan Rayfield, State Representative from House District 16, Corvallis, Philomath, and Oregon State University. As chair of the Subcommittee on Natural Resources, I meet with all of the natural resource agencies. One of the ones that we were meeting with was Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And this is not an original concept that I came up with. This is an idea that has been tossed around. I just happen to be the one that drafted the bill and is taking it up the hill. When talking with the department and other entities, and actually when looking at the budgets, it became real apparent that the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife in-kinds labor to other agencies for fees and permits. When looking at their budget, you can't really tell exactly how much time is being allocated, but there's some significant time that is being allocated to these other agencies. What the problem happens is when you're looking at from the other agencies' budgets and you're trying to determine, well, what is the actual cost to the state to issue these permits? There's no accurate information because you're in-kinding the labor and it's not being tracked. Additionally, some of the other, and so what the result of that is you don't have proper policy discussions in the right budgets on whether or not we should be subsidizing these permits or how much should we be subsidizing these permits by, because this information is not known. The other thing that is when you're doing this and you're in-kinding behavior to other agencies, there's no incentives for these other agencies to judiciously use these resources as it's being given to them. The fourth thing that happens as a result is ODFW's budget. We're not really able to tell how much general fund we would need to backfill to support the other permits and other programs. And as a result, this compromises ODFW's mission as far as conservation, as well as ODFW gets a lot of their money from other fees, say from hunting and fishing licenses, and some of that money sometimes can wind up in other areas that don't necessarily support the constituents or groups of folks that are paying some of those licenses. So what this bill does, essentially in the first 4 years, and this would be the -2 amendments, is it requires ODFW to track the hours and expenses of what they're doing to what services they're providing to other agencies based on fees and permits. In years what would be 5 and 6, it would then require those other agencies to then repay ODFW for those services that they are providing to other agencies. So in essence, the first 4 years are really going to serve as notice to the other agencies. This is the type of benefits, this is the type of services that we're providing, here's the statutory authority. During that period of time, the agencies can look at, okay, is there a more efficient, the other agencies, not ODFW, is there a more efficient way that we can be using these resources? Are we overusing these resources? And some conversations can then begin to happen. In that final, where we're talking, in the final biennium where we're talking about repayment, then honest discussions about policies regarding the permitting process, if we're able to look at and say this one permit is being subsidized by X amount of dollars, we can then have an honest discussion about whether or not that's a good thing, or do we need to change our fee structures as we go forward. In some cases it makes sense, complete sense, to subsidize permit costs because there's a public good that we're providing, or it may incentivize business in the state of Oregon. So that's the bill in essence. Some of the concerns that have been brought up is the fear that permit fees could rise. Right now, I want you guys to know this is not a fee bill. Not whatsoever. This is a bill about proper accounting. And what this bill will do is we'll be able to then have honest discussions about whether or not fees should stay the same or whether we should raise them looking forward, because some fees and permits, we have intended them to be self-sustaining, although we're not sure. We don't have that information right now to even be able to make that decision. Some of the other concerns have been brought up that the Department of Justice or the Attorney General, some folks do not necessarily use some of the services that they should because they have to pay for them. Specifically the Attorney General's office, I may not want to call up the Attorney General because I know that that's going to be an issue in my own budget. I'm going to have to pay for that. I believe that that is actually a good thing when it comes to ODFW's budget because it's encouraging judicious use of these resources. So overall, it's a common sense policy. This is something that if we were doing it in our private lives, we would have done this a long time ago. It's a good accounting bill, and that's why I'm bringing it forward.